So Kenya, Africa's Silicon Savannah, is at a pretty big crossroads. There's a new artificial intelligence bill on the table, and it's forcing everyone to ask a really important question. Is this thing a shield that's going to protect Kenyans, or is it actually a shackle that could cripple the very innovation the country is famous for? Let's get into it. This whole legislative push didn't start in some stuffy boardroom. It was sparked by something really personal and very public. Karen Yamu, she's a Kenyan senator, and like a lot of public figures, she became a target. A nasty AI-generated deepfake of her started making the rounds online. This wasn't just politics, it was a violation. And her response? It was to write a law. And things moved fast. I mean, really fast. The timeline here tells you everything you need to know about the pressure behind this. In February, the High Court basically told the government you need to do something about AI safeguards. And by March, boom, the Senate introduces this bill. So this isn't some slow-moving policy debate. It's a direct, almost knee-jerk reaction to real-world harm and a judge's order. Okay, but before we get into all the problems, and trust me, there are problems, let's be fair. It's not all bad. The bill actually introduces some really important, genuinely new protections for Kenyans. So let's start with what they got right. First up, it introduces a pretty powerful new digital right. So imagine you apply for a loan online and bam, you get rejected instantly by some algorithm. Right now, you probably have no idea why. This bill would give you what's called the right to explanation. It means you'd have the power to demand a clear answer on how that AI made its decision about you. And it doesn't stop there. It's not just about getting an explanation, it's about getting a real second look. The right to human review means if an algorithm turns you down for a job or that loan, you can demand that an actual person, a qualified human, reviews your case. It's a critical check on the power of these automated black box systems. The bill also tries to be smart about this, taking a risk-based approach that's pretty much copied from the EU's Big AI Act. It creates 4 tiers. It completely bans the really scary stuff like government social scoring systems. Then it heavily regulates high-risk areas like healthcare and finance. And for things like simple chatbots, it takes a much lighter touch. The logic here is solid. The level of regulation should match the level of risk. And there are other good ideas in there too. It makes creating harmful deepfakes, the very thing that started this whole conversation, a crime. It sets up a regulatory sandbox, which is basically a safe space for startups to test new ideas without getting buried in rules from day one. So you can see the bill is trying to solve real problems. But, well, good intentions don't always lead to good law. And this is where we have to look a lot closer. Because just beneath the surface of all these good ideas, there are 4 critical flaws in how this bill is designed. These are serious problems that could end up undermining the entire thing. Let's start with the biggest, most fundamental issue: independence. The bill creates a brand new AI commissioner to be the top watchdog. But here's the catch, and it's a huge one. This person is appointed by the president, which raises a massive conflict of interest. How can you possibly regulate the very government that hired you? I mean, the contradiction here is just glaring. The promise is an independent watchdog, right? But the reality is a commissioner who can be hired and fired by the president. So if a government ministry messes up with some flawed AI, how hard is that regulator really going to push back when their job is literally on the line? It's a classic textbook structural flaw. Next up is what some folks are calling the 3-body problem. The bill doesn't just create one new regulator. Oh no, it creates 3: a commissioner, an authority, and an advisory council. And that immediately makes you ask, why so much bureaucracy? The crazy part is, Kenya already has a data protection commissioner and a communications authority. Their jobs already touch on AI. But instead of giving them more resources, the bill just builds a whole new, complicated bureaucracy on top. And who do you think pays the price for that complexity? It's not Google, it's not Microsoft. It's the local Kenyan startup that now has to figure out 3 more layers of red tape. Now this next flaw, this one hits right at the heart of the Silicon Savannah. See, most Kenyan AI developers aren't building giant models from scratch. They're doing what smart developers everywhere do. They adapt powerful, open-source tools made by others. But this bill creates a massive, maybe impossible problem for them. It's a classic catch-22. The bill says developers have to provide full audits of the data their AI models were trained on. But if a developer in Nairobi is using Meta's Llama model, they don't have that data. Meta does. By demanding paperwork they can never, ever get, the law effectively bans the main way local innovators are building AI in the first place. All right, the final big design flaw is all about context. The bill borrows heavily, and I mean heavily, from the EU AI Act. And that forces a really serious question. Can you just copy-paste a framework designed for the world's biggest single market and expect it to work in an emerging African economy? I mean, the difference is just night and day. The EU has this massive, integrated market with deep-pocketed institutions and billions upon billions in AI investment. Kenya has a tiny fraction of those resources. When you transplant the EU's complex rules here, you're importing all of the high costs without any of the support system needed to actually make it work. Okay, but all of those flaws, the bad stuff, they all lead us to the biggest, ugliest truth about this bill. After all the new rules, all the new regulators, we have to ask the most important question of all. Who does this law actually have the power to control? And the answer is probably not who you think. This chart really tells the whole story. The law gives the government a massive amount of power over local Kenyan startups. It can demand audits, slap them with fines, you name it. But when it comes to the AI systems that truly shape Kenyan society, the bill's reach is practically zero. And let's just be blunt here. The real power, the TikTok algorithm deciding what millions of young Kenyans see, the Facebook systems deciding what's hate speech, the algorithms from digital lenders deciding who gets a loan, that's all run by foreign companies. A regulator in Nairobi can't audit TikTok's code. A small fine is just a rounding error to a trillion-dollar company. This means the most influential AI in Kenya today is basically untouched by this law. One analysis I saw just captured the absurdity of it perfectly. It pointed out that this bill is creating 3 new regulatory bodies in a field where Kenya has not yet created a single local LLM. Think about that. It's building this massive, complicated regulatory palace on a completely empty plot of land. It puts the cart so far ahead of the horse, they're in different time zones. Look, let's be clear. The goal here is absolutely the right one. Kenya needs to regulate AI. Those new digital rights are essential. But a bill with a puppet regulator, a bloated bureaucracy, and rules that punish local innovators while letting the global giants off the hook, that is not the answer. The Senate has to go back to the drawing board and fix these deep structural problems. So we end right where we started. This bill was born out of real harm and a real desire for protection. But as it's written right now, you have to ask, will this law really empower and protect the Kenyan people from the risks of AI, or will it just end up strangling local innovation while allowing the most powerful companies in the world to keep doing business as usual? That is the choice facing Kenya's lawmakers right now.